Hey, Star Labs. Something I think is really interesting is that we're growing. Right now, we're two people, myself and a previous collaborator in the research project I did. Now he's like one of the first members of Star Labs. Um, but there's talks to grow, whether it's someone who's already said, oh, they're interested, whether it's a physicist who's doing a PhD, I think, at CMU, who were interested in like bringing into the team. Whether it's people who've talked about, okay, maybe we can join the team in the fall semester. There is interest. I do think the natural next steps for Star Labs is to grow, right? The ideal plan was after August, a proof of concept of the work we're doing has been shown. We say, hey, investors, people, companies come to us, but also people come work with us. But that's happening faster than I expected. I think it's cool. I think people are interested and they do think the ideas and research, the research goals are promising. But I think where does that leave me? Right. I think it's weird because like I'm the founder and leader of Star Labs. And I don't think I'm worried about like more people joining. I think it's a very beautiful thing. I think it's one of the biggest things I've wanted for a minute now because there's stuff in Star Labs, like the work we're doing, whether it's in the physics compute Gaussians substrate or whether it's in the neural engines where it's like okay there's a lot of depth and there's a lot of breadth here, right? I feel like there's so many trade-offs. It's like okay, I can't go for so much breadth because like we're a small team with a proof of concept we want to get to by August, but if we have more people we could tackle those stuff along the breadth, right? um a really good example of this is in the evaluation. Like even in terms of like the physical mute Gaussian substrate, Gaussians are really meant to recreate scenes, and like 4D Gaussians are something like okay, we create motion scenes, but like the evaluations there are just not the best in my opinion. And that's something where if we had class someone who's like really focused on that, we have some amazing work done in that area, which helps us later down the line. So I'm really excited in that aspect of having more people to increase our breadth. I also do think it does two things for myself. Where one, it makes me accountable. Right, I can't just like say, "Oh, okay, Dal, you got this and this done," right? Or maybe you didn't get this and this done. But now weekly, I have to meet with someone and say, "Hey, this is what I got done. This is the next steps." And they say, "This is what I got done. These are the next steps." I think that's a really beautiful brainstorming process, and I think that's the second thing where it's like it's no longer just like me by myself just saying here are the goals, but it's me talking with someone and them be like, okay, this is what I think we should do. This is what I don't think we should do. I'm like, oh, maybe what do you mean here? What do you mean here? Maybe there's some misunderstandings, and maybe someone's misunderstandings reveal my own misunderstandings or assumptions about the project. There's also just like the beautiful brainstorming in terms of like this big ideas. Sometimes they're crazy ideas, right? And like they're not gonna go anywhere. But in those crazy ideas, you really do find the promising ones. I think that's also really amazing to see. Uh but yeah, right now it doesn't feel like like in terms of my previous leadership experience, it doesn't even feel like that in the sense where it's like, oh, I tell like I say, okay, this is where these people are gonna be working on, this is what these people are gonna be working on. It feels much like a much more like a conversation. I do imagine as we grow, it's gonna become much more of a thing. It's like, okay, I have to now think and like, say, hey, this is where we're gonna go and this is where we're gonna go. Like I have to like really assign people and do stuff like that. But right now it feels weird if I did like it's two people, so it'll just be like me, it'll just be like me saying, you do this, you do this, you do this. Um, so I'm happy it's not like that. I really do like the I do really like the relationship right now. I really do like that. In the future though, I do think I'll have to improve on that. But also I think right now the way we're expanding, it's very chillax. It's very much more like people are just floating in. Uh there's been very few people like we're like, okay, let's like focus on do that. So I wonder if maybe in December, maybe in November, where we have a more focused acquisition of people where it's like, okay, we need people who have these skills because we don't have these skills, right? But for now, it's just been a very blessed thing. Like the people who are floating in or have the skill sets we need. Like let's say we need someone who's really good at physics. That's bro, but still, we need someone who's really good at physics. Oh wow, someone who's really good at physics is interested in joining, or maybe we have a contact with them. We're trying to get them onto the team. We need someone who's really good at engines, game engines. Maybe someone who has really good game engine experience is now in talks to join us like later in the fall. I think maybe an aspect of that is also just like the people I talk to Star Labs about are people who typically are in that realm and they understand the different interesting elements and that's what piques their interest, right? So maybe that's an aspect of that. Overall though, very exciting time for the Star Labs team to see it grow. Right now we're two people, so who knows how many people will be in like 3 weeks, 6 weeks. Uh 6 months, we'll see. We'll see. I do think there's a very tiny part of my brain, like you said, like an atom. It's like, oh, are you worried about your commitment to Star Labs? I really don't think I am, because it's like with the way I see Star Labs is very much like my main focus. Right? Even with my internship, I'll be working on something, and a good chunk of the project I'm working on is connected to Star Labs. Like, how can I make sure this amplifies my work at Star Labs? I was funny the other day. I had like a eureka moment where I was working on a project. Like, wait, this is actually similar to what I'm doing with Star Labs. Like, whoa. And I had like a whole thing where I got back down my chair. Kind of like it was like the scene in the Batman where Robert Pattinson is like hunched over with a bunch of notes around him. Um, but much more nerdy. I think I had a bunch of like fruit snacks on my table, and I was just like I was crunched over, but like no, it's cool. But still, I don't worry about my commitment. I do think something that's a logical thing I should do is have a better way to explain Star Labs. There's been conversations where I've done really well with explaining it, and there's been conversations where I've done a terrible job, and the person I'm talking to obviously can't tell it's a terrible job because it's like they have no idea what I'm describing, which I guess is a sign, but still. Um, and I think I have to have a more consistent explanation of what we're doing at Star Labs and why we're doing it. But overall, those are my thoughts. I'll check on this like later to see if anything I did was right or wrong. But for now, that's what I'm thinking. Besides, I don't have nothing else to say. So have a great day.